I've got my eraser, a number 2 pencil, a 4H, so that I can more easily get very light values. What I don't have yet is some sort of cover sheet. So right here I have just a couple pieces of printer paper, and what I want to do is just take some Scotch tape and connect those. The reason I want a cover sheet is so that I can put this over my drawing so that the back of my hand isn't rubbing all of that work that I did with these shapes before I get the chance to shade down here. Presuming you're right-handed, you will start in the upper left-hand corner and do one square at a time, one row at a time, all the way from the top left to the bottom right of your drawing. We want to deal with the process and gradually let each little piece slowly start to stack up to build an entire image, so that by the time you do get to the focal point, your strongest shading will probably end up happening there. Really what I'm going to do is to try to match these values as closely as possible. It doesn't matter what in this box I draw first, but I do want to draw only this box. Now, having said that, I don't have to, strictly speaking, end with a harsh edge here, but what I do want to do is get this medium value right here, bring it down, and somewhere around where the grid line is, basically stop. And then I'll do the dark chord, and then I'll do this, and I'll work my way across, and in the sixth box over here, I'll start to get to his hair. But I need to keep it really light here at first. Remember, you want to go in multiple different directions and work really small, kind of constantly overlapping. You'll always want to begin a little bit lighter than what you think you need. It's actually kind of hard once we get into the middle of this drawing to go back and erase some areas, but it's really easy to go back and add value to an image. And I'm even going outside of my original rectangle just so that I know that whenever I mat this at the end of the process, the edges of the drawing will be completely covered. The other thing that I want to point out is this shape that I have drawn right here. When I look at my picture, that's really dark. And the wall behind it's an electrical cord of some sort. So what I'm actually going to do is shade all the way through this object right here and then go back and put an additional layer of value. It makes getting a transition in value on that back wall just a little bit easier. Another thing you can see is that I've moved my fingers back on the pencil so that I can get an even lighter value. And I'm not just going top to bottom or left to right in this box. I'm coming through, and this is actually the second time sort of that I've drawn on top of the wall that is right next to that electrical cord, just to try to get it to be smoother. Just like with other media, if I create layers, it will often allow for easier transitions and fading from one value to the next as well. Again, I won't go as dark as I think I need it to be, because I can always go a little bit darker later through creating layers. I think I'm basically done with that first square. You know, take your time. Not every box is going to take that long, partly because I was talking a little bit. Having patience with this will make a huge difference. Down here where this curve is, it's fairly dark in the it's darkish in the picture, not nearly as dark as this, but because it's in the background and it's kind of out of focus, I want it to be a little bit soft. What I will do is shade over the whole thing, again, kind of like I did with this chord over here, and then create an additional layer on top of that. And it allows it to look a little bit more out of focus and blurry. In my photograph, there is kind of a shadowy dark, I think it's some sort of like overlapping edge, but just to the right of that, it's ever so slightly lighter. And I just kind of made this all even right here. So I will make sure that my eraser is clean. And then I'm going to come through here at an angle to try to get the smallest edge possible. And then I'll come back in and try to just soften that edge. It's even lighter right here until it gets to this section. So I'm going to move my fingers way back on my pencil and get this as light as possible. It's whisper light. As I get to this edge of the hair over here, I'm going to take this background value, since it is a little bit lighter, and bring it over that edge. I should still be able to see this pencil line coming through here, but that will again allow me to make this look a little bit more smooth as I progress. And the great thing that I want to point out at this juncture is that if you only look at what is shaded and you're not referencing the photograph, you shouldn't really be able to tell what's going on. Just like in the video, we want to take piece by piece and work on each individual thing and gradually building the whole image. One of the things here that I want to pay attention to is noticing the overall general direction that the head moves and the hair goes in. And I don't see any detail in there. So there's a couple of things that I do want to do and a couple of things that I don't want to do. One of the things that I don't want to do, if I grab my scrap paper here, is try to draw in individual strands of hair. Partly because that's not the smooth shading that we're talking about, but also that's not really what hair looks like. Since I am doing smooth shading, I am going in different directions, but I am ever so subtly kind of moving in the direction that the object, in this case some of the hair, needs to go. When I get over to this part of the head, some of it will come a little bit more in this direction or in this direction. So I shouldn't see the pencil marks, but I do want to ever so subtly hint at them. In addition to that, what I will do is start to shade this area that goes around some of the crazy hair that's sticking up, and then on a second, maybe even a third layer, I will come through and make this hair just a little bit darker so that it stands out somewhat. And that's the process that I'll use as I continue on. And you'll use the same process and technique throughout the entirety of the drawing. And just remember, follow the process and don't skip ahead.